So tell me a little bit about when did you get involved in Valley's Kids and what that was like for you?
Yeah. So when I was around about 22, I was part of the drama, media and theatre course in the University of Glamorgan, which had gone across to the atrium. And as part of the course, I was studying applied theatre and applied arts. And there was two streams really of how I got involved in Sparc, Valley's Kids, through that measure. But essentially, Miranda, the artistic director of Sparc, was my lecturer, and a fond memory was that we were asked to come up with an idea of what we would like to do within the realm of what we'd be learning about within the applied theatre realm. And one of the things that I submitted was saying I would love to work in the Rhondda Valleys. I would love to work with young people, really thinking about how to utilise the arts and drama and theatre to support young people who were, in my words then, at risk of deprivation. And ironically, Miranda, who's the artistic director, like I said, was my lecturer. I had no idea of her involvement really in Sparc Valley's Kids, and she came up to me and she said, perhaps I need to let you know about what I do as my day-to-day job, and that's when essentially that link was formed. Also, there was somebody on my course who I really worked collaboratively with, called Tegan Waits. And Tegan, for instance, was saying to me, honestly, you need to come to Valley's Kids, it's amazing. I'm part of the Penrengling project, come and be part of it. I would love for you to come and join me, it'd be amazing if you could volunteer. And I was thinking, well, this theme has come up a couple of times. And Tegan said to me one day after a lecture or after a workshop, she said, Ian, I've been asked to go and volunteer to do a bit of sound lighting, and I know you're interested in that. And you know, it's Miranda, so why don't you just come along and why don't you volunteer? And I thought, why not? So I spoke with Miranda, I spoke with Tegan, and within a week I was in the Soul Centre in Penrengling Bike Club, which I didn't know at that point in time. And I was working with a couple of the art workers, or Sparc workers as we think now, in a voluntary capacity, working on sound lighting. And that was with Jono, and that was with Tom and the wider team. And the biggest thing that I could say is I was completely and utterly welcomed into a space where I felt I could bring both of my knowledge but also learn, and it just fitted everything that I believed in. I knew I didn't want to become an actor on the stage in the biggest or widest of senses. I knew that I was interested in TIE or forum theatre or community arts, but I didn't know what that was. I knew that they existed, I knew that that's what I wanted to do, and as soon as I met Tegan and Miranda, that was completely, the door opened for me, and where really I would say my whole career started, and where I felt really welcomed, and that ranged from, you know, I come in a voluntary capacity, but I was working with the young people, I was working in the valleys like I wanted to, I was working in technical theatre, which was of an interest to me, and it was the first time outside of a university context where I was in a professional setting and my knowledge was respected, but also I was learning 10 times a month that I was actually able to bring to the table, and that collaboration just absolutely meant that any voluntary opportunity that came up, I just kept coming back. And that collaboration with the team, or the art workers team at the time, was just such a warm, welcoming space.
Amazing. And so tell me then, obviously your journey kind of progressed then, you know, you did all that incredible voluntary work, but then it progressed, and tell me a little bit about that and also the kinds of things that you've done with Valley's Kids.
So I was in a really fortunate position where my dissertation of my degree was commissioned, and I started a journey within the arts realm in the sphere of what I was just saying. And within a couple of months, a job came up for Valley's Kids, and I felt torn because obviously I'd managed to secure a role, which was a fortunate role, but also the role that I'd been dreaming of in the voluntary capacity come available. And it was one of those situations where even though I felt torn, there was no question mark about it. And it was an apprenticeship, a graduate apprenticeship program, which was specifically funded. And I knew when it became available, because I was working for Lloyd's TSB at the time as well. So it was probably about 5 months after I graduated, and I couldn't believe that this job had become available, doing what I classified at the time as my dream job, and it is my dream job. And I applied, and I was so fortunate to get it. And it was a year of being part of the Sparc team, learning the ropes, learning the craft of being a youth arts development worker. But again, coming back to that welcoming space, it was a space at the age of 23 where I could absolutely be a sponge and learn from all of the expertise around me, and to be in the, field of working with professional arts practitioners. And at the time, I didn't really know what practitioners was, but on a daily basis, I was around established arts practitioners, both internally, but through the networks of Valley's Kids. I just felt like I was living the dream. And I felt that it couldn't come quick enough. But on the flip side of that, likewise, I was given the opportunity as part of that year to run a couple of groups myself as the lead. And that was a real opportunity to work in tandem with Miranda. And Miranda was my mentor, and essentially took me through a journey of a year in a shadowing context, but in a budgeting context, a mentorship context, all of the above, to support me to lead groups. And that's when I think I really started to feel confident. I started to feel like I'd developed my craft. And what's really funny looking back now is the amount of conversations I had with Miranda with regards to, I'd learned the craft when it came to drama workshop, but with the youth theatre, I was perhaps treating the youth theatre too young, or vice versa. So for me, it was a bit of a seesaw where I was bouncing back and forth between the two skill sets of different age ranges. And that's where I really had the opportunity in that year to work with the likes of Tom, Gemma, Miranda, Tegan, and the list goes on, and the external practitioners, just to really learn how do you support the community through the youth's use of the arts. And the more I did it, the more I fell in love, the more that I could see the rewards, both for myself personally, but also for the community itself. And I knew at that point, even within the first year, that my whole career will be in the sphere of community engagement, utilising, as I thought of it at the time, as arts for change.
Amazing. And in terms of that, then you moved on even from being a graduate, so you kind of,
Absolutely. So my journey was really exciting. So within 9 months of being an apprentice, an opportunity was to apply for a non-apprenticeship role, which was a youth arts development worker, which again was no question mark about it. I absolutely applied for that and was fortunate enough to secure the role. And at that point in time, the team was building further and further, so the expertise was getting larger and larger, and there was more expertise around the table, the networking opportunities become wider. But that was at the point in time where I started delivering in more communities with more groups, and I was in leading capacities where I was delivering potentially 3 to 4 sessions a week and supporting other sessions a week. In Rydfelin, in Pengraig, in Dinas, and Penrenglan. And it was the point in time that I felt that I learned or gained the confidence to start writing, start directing. I was starting to learn the craft around kind of building, staging, set design, all things that I never thought that I would do really within the role. In my mind, it was the delivery of community engagement, working with young people, but all of the skill sets that come with it, and the opportunity to develop those skill sets that come with it. And that's where I really felt that my journey had started, even though it was the apprenticeship, it was the youth arts development worker side of it. And I've got very, very fond memories. It was at that opportunity which I had the privilege to go to South Africa, which was an international exchange for a month, nearly a month. I had the opportunity to go on tour with the National Theatre of Wales, which I didn't ever think would happen in my whole career. I had the opportunity to support the development of an international exchange that I wasn't necessarily part of it because of family circumstance. My brother getting married, but having the privilege to see the young people in the groups that I was delivering, which some of them were asking me questions, where's Llantrisant, being able to jump on a plane for the first time and to go to another country and beyond the horizons, behind the borders, and really, really learn. And from a personal perspective, I used to take that home and I used to say to my family, this is happening, that's happening, the young people are having opportunities. But in real terms, I think I was the one that was learning the most. And I felt that I was the one that was just in the most privileged situation, having the access from an industry perspective to absolutely everything, but also from the young people welcoming me into their space and their community. And that wasn't one centre or one community, that was absolutely all of the communities. And I really do still, but I really at that point in my life felt a part of that journey with the young people and with the team. And I feel like from a team perspective, it was a family, it is a family. And I would say in some capacity I have relations with absolutely every single volunteer, team member, both of Sparc and Valleys, the wider Valleys Kids organisation. And I don't think you could get that anywhere else. I don't, when I speak about Valleys Kids, some people say to me, what is it? And I say, well, you've got to be go and be part of it and find out for yourself, because it's special. It's really special. And I think it's only until people experience it do people understand. And that's what I really felt, that my career had taken off. And I'm sure we'll go into it in a moment, but that's where I felt like I learned the whole foundation for who I am now and where I am in my journey to date. And that wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for the opportunities of the graduate apprenticeship scheme, if it wasn't for the team, if it wasn't for Miranda that one day saying, why don't you come to Valleys Kids, but also the ongoing journey of the support and the mentorship. And that means an awful lot to me, because I really believe that I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for that.
And you talk about where you are, and you've done so much in, like, there were so many sort of layers in terms of, you talked about kind of what it's done to kind of help, but obviously you took a lot of those, you've been at Valleys Kids, you've gone away and you've come back in different capacities. So when you went out from Valleys Kids and then you've come back in, can you describe how that has, helped, or what you took, but also what you brought, I guess, as well?
Yeah. So there was two things, really. One of them was I had an absolute privilege of working with somebody called Di Fisher-Naylor, who I was not aware of in any way, shape or form. And one day Miranda said to me, Ian, I would like you to collaborate with somebody, and I'd like you to be able to demonstrate and show somebody what it is that we do. and a lady from Newcastle called Di come and joined me in quite a few sessions, and I thought it was collaboration, relationship building, and I took the opportunity for 2 weeks just to share what it is, what's the identity of Sparc and Valleys Kids, I suppose is the best way of saying it. At the same time, I was working on the Ideas, People and Places project, which I was privileged to be part of looking after in collaboration with a couple of other team members for a period of time. And that's when I started learning project management, I suppose, or starting to learn what project management was and developing that toolkit. And I had the privilege through Sparc to go to Hungary and to be able to share what it is that Valleys Kids and Sparc do. And I didn't think anything of it. I just saw it as an opportunity to share the journey, and I couldn't get enough of sharing who we are and what our identity is, because obviously I think it's special. And as a result of that, as well as speaking to Miranda about professional opportunities and development opportunities, a role came up in the Arts Council of Wales to be able to lead part of the Lead Creative School scheme, which is looking at the new curriculum in Wales and supporting schools to become more creative in their approach to teaching. And through extensive dialogue with Miranda about my journey and where I'd like to go, I took the jump, the leap, and I went to the Arts Council of Wales for 5 to 6 years to lead a region of the programme. But what I really want to say within all of that is it was through the Youth Arts Development Worker role and the continuous professional development of being in Sparc where I had the space and the opportunity within one-to-one settings, within continuous professional development settings, where I could start to pave where I'd like my journey to go. And what was really fascinating for me is one of the reasons I went to the Arts Council is because I wanted to be a voice around the table representing the communities of the valleys in the widest sense, and making sure deprivation was really fully considered and that decisions were made with equity and equality and parity. And I really felt privileged to be able to be around the table within the Arts Council of Wales, informing what I believe is the direction of what should be community arts, or in the modern day sense, kind of applied arts within the community, especially for me, passionate, the valleys, and obviously what's passionate to me even more is the Rhondda Valleys. And it's through that journey which I felt that I knew I was going to be in that role for 5-6 years, but I was also really passionate about coming back to the sector, and I knew that I didn't want to necessarily, not through any fault of the Arts Council, I knew that I wanted to come back into the arts sector I knew I wanted to come back in and be part of the arts sector after that 5-year journey. And even though I kept close relationship with Sparc Valleys Kids, as soon as that role concluded, the door was so wide open and I was welcomed back in as if I'd never been away. I was back around kind of the team table in a voluntary context, in a writing context, in a context of devising programs, developing, and that's when Miranda invited me in to be part of creating what turned out to be the Make It programme. And that was also during the creation of the Sparc Associate programme. And I didn't quite know how I was going to come back into applied arts and applied theatre, but what I did know is that I was probably going to need to do it in a freelance capacity, and I would really say that that was a nervous point in my career, and I was extremely worried about it, especially the fact that I'd left the Arts Council at the very beginning of COVID, and I was looking at starting my freelance career as COVID was starting to ease. I really honestly believe that I wouldn't have secured my freelance career if it wasn't for the likes, again, of Sparc Valley's Kids giving me the opportunity within the Sparc Associate Pool, the Make It programme, and really creating that wraparound of enabling local artists and practitioners to just be able to walk through the door. And I wasn't just welcomed back by the team, I was welcomed back by Sparc, Valley's Kids, and most importantly, the community. And that felt like I felt in a really privileged position. And it was as if I'd never left. And yes, I'd popped back and forth, but nowhere near as much as you want to, because obviously life is so busy. But it was as if I never left. And again, even though I've gone on to other roles, I've maintained my involvement in Sparc Valley's Kids for the duration since the start of my freelance journey. And even though I've had the privilege of setting up a couple of companies and I've secured other roles, the one thing that I won't let go of is the delivery of the minimum of at least one session as a Sparc Associate, because for me, that is what it's about. It's about being with the young people, it's about being on the ground, boots on the ground, and learning from the young people and being part of that journey. And that's my happy place also. So no matter where my career goes and where the journey takes me, I will never, if it's within my power, I will never ever let go of that one session. And that could be in any community that Sparc is involved in. Currently for me it's Pennagraig Youth Theatre, however it could be in Penrhynglyn, Pennagraig, Dinas, Penrhys, Rydfelyn. It doesn't matter, it's just having that one opportunity. And I do want to thank Sparc, because it's through Sparc that I have that opportunity to achieve what I would like to achieve in my career as well. And what I'd like to achieve on my weekly basis when we're project managing and we're doing all the paperwork and the administration, and you lose in your mind sometimes, what am I doing this for? I never lose that, because I have that one session a week, and I'm supported. No matter where life takes me, I'm supported to be able to hold that one session a week, and I feel really privileged for that.
That's so lovely to hear. You've said so much about this in a way, Ian, but there are there's little other areas of expertise. So there's a question here: what have you done for Valley's Kids? But you've bigged up us, but like there are a few things that you brought to the table because you have had that expertise and knowledge. So tell us a little bit about what you've done to help us, because you certainly have.
Yeah. I feel something that's really special is it's very rare where you get the space, especially within an employability setting where the learning is both ways, and where it's, it works in two directions. I suppose where I'm really fortunate is I have had roles within the Arts Council. I have had roles where at the moment, I'm running an arts service in a borough and I'm a venue manager. But fundamentally, and I am going to come back to how I got in, I've learned a lot of the foundation of those skill sets. Not even how to project manage, but what is required within those roles and what the requirement is aligned to lots of different tasks. And I learned that here, and I still am able to be within that role now. But where I've gone into the other roles, for instance, within ACW, within being a venue manager, etc., being a CEO of another company, I've been able to massage those muscles in a way where I'm able to bring back thinking and creative thinking and leadership and strategy thinking back into the mix. And that's where I've been working in a capacity for the last few years. as strategic support to Miranda. And it's, even though it's a space where we achieve a lot, we think about strategic, it's the harmony of working together and really establishing how can we support the communities. And we're doing it through budgets, narrative, leadership, creation of programs, funding applications. But for me, it's absolutely something that I feel that I can bring something to, but continuously it's something that I'm receiving from. And I think it's just a muscle that is being massaged continuously, always round. In addition to that, I feel that, you know, I have learned other skill sets, so I feel like I'm able to bring that from a slightly train-the-trainer setting. So definitely around technical theatre, I feel that I had the opportunity to learn all of those skills, and now I'm having the opportunity to share those skills. So I feel that that mechanism of train-the-trainer, of kind of sharing and learning together is all happening simultaneously. But never once have I ever tried to bring something to the table that I felt I had to offer, and I ever felt that that wasn't received. And I think that's why I feel so comfortable, whether it's in a delivery context, whether it's in a leadership context, a strategic context. I always feel that I'm able to share my thinking, I'm able to share whether it's just kind of pushing at the seams of something, or whether it's bringing a new thought or an angle, and I always feel that I can bring that thinking and that knowledge around the table. And I hope over the last 3 years that I've been able to bring knowledge and thinking that has supported the journey of both Sparc and Valley's kids. Because for me, if I ever was in a situation where I'd have to let go of everything else and solely concentrate on Sparc Valley's kids, not through employment, but just through passion and just dedication and love and knowing the identity, I would do it 10 times over.
You've given a huge amount, and you know I think what's amazing and what's been lovely about all these interviews is hearing. It's sometimes, like you say, very hard to describe Valley's kids, and one of the things that I've started to realise from doing this is because it's so complex. Yeah. It's not a straightforward. It's never quite a straightforward journey. Yeah. But I guess, like, if you had to speak to other people and say, why do you think Valley's Kids and Sparc is so important to the communities where we work? What would you say to them?
I would say it's because we create a safe space where the door is always open. The continuity of that door being open week in, week out is absolutely there. And first and foremost, it's always about the community and about the young people that we work with. And for me, knowing that the community have constant access and have constant support is what it's about, whether that's for a cuppa, whether that's for a biscuit, whether that's because of a sad time, whether that's because of a happy time. All of the above is absolutely welcomed. And it's a space to be able to explore the world and oneself. You know, I always think about when we're creating, especially within Sparc, when we're creating, when we're devising, what does that mean? And even as somebody who's in the devising process, even if I'm facilitating it, it's a space to be able to kind of just learn and to be and to have a support mechanism. And one thing that I've really witnessed is how much the young people mean to each other and what that support mechanism is as well. So it's a special, safe space where everybody is welcome. It's inclusive in the truest of senses, and it's a place to have fun.
Yes, so important. If you had to say, it's so hard, I know, because there are so many of them, but if you had to sort of say something that comes to mind, like a memory or something that you just is like your takeaway, like, you know, it might be a particular session or a particular project, you know, is there something you can pull out?
There's quite a few things.
Yeah.
One of my fondest memories around sharing the outcome of a process was during a show in Pennygraig, and the whole audience were in position. I was sitting down, I was around about 25. I still thought of myself as early career. However, I started to think I was starting to become established, and the performance began, and one of the young people went off for a costume change and didn't quite achieve the costume change in the right amount of time, and come onto the stage with her jumper still over her head, coming onto the stage going, shouting my name, Ian. And I was at that point in my career where I still didn't know what to do. I hadn't experienced that one yet. And thankfully, the whole audience just smiled with complete and utter warmth. And it was in that moment where I really thought, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. What matters is that the person who I'm referring to feels that she was able to do that and felt comfortable, and that the whole audience was completely with her. And it was in that moment I thought, this is what it's about. It's not about the show. It's just about us being together and enjoying each other's company. And I think that's where my mindset changed. That's when I started going, yes, we've got to have high artistic quality. Of course we do. But it's not about that. It's really about the process. And it made me, like, in one moment, that would have been my worst nightmare, but in the moment I just thought, yeah. But I still looked over my shoulder, looked at Miranda and kind of said, help. And Miranda come down and saved the moment. But it was at that point in time when we restarted the show, it went absolutely perfect. And the person I'm referring to coming up to me at the end of the show went, that was fine, wasn't it? And I always look back at that kind of memory and smile. I've got to say about one other memory. There was another memory which we were creating a safe space within one of our sessions, and I brought basically about 100 different sheets of material, and we spent about 2 hours, a group of about maybe 12, 13, about 12-year-olds at the time, in the basement of Cross Street, and we created what we thought was our set for, and we weren't even close to a show, it was just something to be able to work from a devising, like a stimuli, and we spent 3 hours in just like perfectly arranging, and I don't think I did one thing. I think the young people just negotiated, had a vision, and they brought it to life. And again, we weren't even close to anything. We were just creating and having conversations about where this could take us, and that became the stimuli really for the next kind of 18 months after that. And it was one really simple session that just always have stayed with me for some reason, which meant it had so much importance.
I love that. Yeah, beautiful. Is there anything else? You've said so much and it's so rich what you've said, but is there anything else that you want to add or you want to say?
I don't think I've gone through one opportunity or achieved one opportunity or gone on any journey, whether that's meeting new people within the sector, whether it's working with a different community group, whether it's an interview process, whether it's going abroad, where I haven't said that I've worked for or currently work with Sparc Valley's kids. Every part of my journey, wherever my career or life takes me, I've always said, I would say that within my interview of Arts Council of Wales, I got it on the basis of working with Sparc Valley's kids. The same for the current roles that I'm in right now. When I've met different networks, it's always, oh, we've never met before. And I say, oh, you know, I started my career in Sparc Valley's kids, and the answer always comes back saying, was you on Moran's team? And that is always, always an opener for me, no matter where I am in my journey. And it always, always opens, not opportunities, but opportunities and warmth. So the door is open even where you don't think there's a door, and the networks are just extensive, and I'm proud of that, and I'm proud to wear that badge, and I'm proud to shout out that this is where I started my career, this is where I learned my craft, this is where I am in my journey, and I really truly believe it's because of my involvement here. And I can't walk through one community where I don't feel privileged to the point of knowing a significant amount of the community, and that's both young people, that's both team members, but also parents of. And even to this day, I still can walk to the shop and speak to a young person who's not so young anymore, parent, and talk about how rich and an important journey it was for them to be involved in the session, and for me to be able to articulate how privileged I felt to also be part of that session. So there's not one part of my life where I haven't said that I've worked, where I haven't said I've not worked, you know what I mean?
Yes.
For Valley's kids, Sparc.
Yeah. Thanks, Ian. What a lovely interview.